Hey everybody, welcome back to another Maledictor update. We've got a ton to go over this time, so let's jump on into it. Hopefully we should be able to get through it quick, but I don't think we've ever had this many things to go over before in an update. So, first off, E1M5 and E1M6 improvements. These are basically layout changes in certain areas of the level so that they flow a little bit better, and generally it was kind of closing some sections off a little bit so that it's a little bit tighter and just plays a little bit better. So some small changes to some of the levels that really helps some parts of them quite a bit. Next, a pretty significant balance change. So we've got bullet ammo removed, and instead we have added in 45 ACP ammo and 10mm ammo. What that basically means is it used to be that the pistol and the submachine gun used the same ammo type, and I kind of originally wanted that to be as a way of you have to choose between whether you want to have some accurate shots that are a bit slower or a lot of damage up close. And generally basically what happened, and I guess what always happens in that kind of scenario, is that one gun winds up being kind of noticeably better than the other. And rather than try to balance them around each other to the point that really probably one wound up being kind of bad and one wound up being strong, or both wound up being bad, it's too much. It's too difficult to kind of balance two guns around each other like that, I think. So basically what I did was I instead decided to split their ammo and separate them from each other so that now the pistol has its own ammo, the submachine gun has its own ammo, and I also made some adjustments to them as well. Their max ammo, well, the pistol's max ammo changed so that now the pistol is actually kind of like a mini power weapon, but it doesn't have much max ammo. So I still really want the starting gun to actually be useful, but it was winning out over the submachine gun way too much before. So now the submachine gun actually has a purpose. And from testing, it's been a very nice change. And then, of course, the tradition continues of more sprites. A lot more. Redid E1M1 through E1M8 pickups. That was pretty much necessary because of the ammo split, but also because I ran through the game again and played through each level a little bit more. And I was able to kind of feel what sections needed more ammo or more health, things like that. So fix that up, because I've gone through a couple of balance changes since I last played through the game, so I needed to reevaluate it a little bit. More jibbed bodies. So that's more variation of when you blow somebody up and the chunks that are left over. Just got some more variation for that. We used to only have one version of it, so now we've got 3 or 4, I can't quite remember. E1M1 improvements. Again, it's just some minor layout changes and also tweaking some enemy placements a little bit, just so that it flows a little bit better. Then we've got enemy AI improvements. That's kind of just debloating certain areas and also having them respond a little bit smarter, so they're not quite so stupid. Yeah, that's basically that. Next, fixed a corpse bug. So what happened with some of the corpses is that they would actually block explosion traces, and so if there was a dead body on the ground and you threw an IED out in front of it, then it would actually block the damage from the IED. So now it doesn't do that. So now the bodies don't really interfere with gameplay anymore. E1M3 improvements. Same thing as the other improvements, readjusting the level a little bit. Player light tweak. This is just a minor change. If we actually go into the game here, I can show you. You can see how now, if you look at the edges of the light, you can see that it's actually rounded. It used to be that the player just emanated light naturally, but I thought it would look just a little bit better if you had kind of this flashlight effect. So now it actually kind of makes a little bit more sense. The light. It's something that is not really all that noticeable, but I like it. It's a small detail. I'm happy with that. Next, switch bug fixed. There was a problem with the switches regarding the save load system, so that they weren't really assigned to the correct switch group. And so got that fixed, so that now they do. So you can save and load. A lot of fixes in this update were kind of centered around the save load system and things breaking during it. So the save load system, when I was playing through the game, made sure to save the game on loading into a level and then load the level and then go through it just to check for anything that might break. So certain things needed to get fixed with that. Stop losing my place here. Buffed enemy attack range and buffed enemy speed. Yep, pretty much. Certain areas, it felt like the enemies were a little too helpless. You know, I don't want them to be able to engage from, you know, all the way across the map, but at the same time, I think that there are some areas where there's a little too much distance between the player and the enemies, and they have some trouble actually being able to respond. So I increased their movement speed so they can close the gap a little bit faster, and then increase their attack range so that they don't have to close as much of a gap. UNM 5 improvements. Yep, same thing there. Adjusted enemy aim point. This was... so the enemies have a specific point on the player that they aim at when they try to shoot. And that also counts as a vision check to see if they can see you. And a lot of the time what was happening was it was a little too low. So if the enemy... if you were standing behind something not even really that tall of cover, then the enemy would look at the point that they were trying to aim at, see that it was blocked, and would be told that they couldn't see the player. So I rose it up a little bit, which not only makes it a little bit, you know, it makes it a lot more consistent to where if you can see them, then they can see you. But it also makes it to where it feels a little bit more intuitive if you're going to get hit, because a lot of the enemies are projectile based. So that way you can see the projectiles coming in towards you a little bit better. So it feels a bit more sensible now. Improved elevator buttons. So the way that it used to work with the elevators is you would go in and you would have these two buttons, and these were actually collision buttons for the player. So you would have to walk into them and overlap them in order to hit the button. And that felt a little not good because it had it's a small elevator, and the problem was that you would have to, I couldn't make the button collision boxes too big, otherwise you would intersect with both of them and press both buttons at the same time. But to make them small enough so they didn't collide with each other, it made it to where it was, you had to just be right up on the wall in order to hit the buttons, and it didn't feel very good. So what I do now, and this is because I've learned a lot since I last made the elevators, is that now it's just a line trace. So now you look at the button and press the interact button, and it'll shoot a little line out, a little line trace. And if it intersects with the square, then you press the button. So it is a lot more intuitive and feels a lot better. So very happy with that change. Okay. Fix the secret counter bug. Yep, the game would not count the secrets correctly, and it was you could actually, with the old way that it counted it, you could wind up with more secrets found than were in the level, at least as far as the game was concerned. It would count the amount that you found correctly, but it would count the maximum amount incorrectly. So now it actually counts them. Improved enemy vision check. That is, I believe it's a lot of changes, so I don't quite remember all of them, but I believe I widened the enemy's cone a little bit so that now they can see, they've got a little bit more peripheral vision, so they can see a little bit more. I mean, it feels a little bit more real. Let's see. Fixed door open amount bug. Doors weren't opening the right amount, and sometimes they could open backwards. Unreal's rotation system is not great sometimes, unfortunately, and you've got to work around the rotation system a weird way and a weird amount of the time in order to get things to rotate as they should. So yeah, that was a very annoying problem, but it is fixed now. As far as all of my testing has shown, that's all fixed, and the doors are much better now. E1M8 model fix. Oh yeah, and so there was a major prop in E1M8 that was off center. Like, it was asymmetrical, and it was supposed to be symmetrical, so fix that. Next, adjusted SMG damage and spread. That is kind of one of the things I was talking about, because now I don't have to overcompensate on the submachine gun to make up for how strong the pistol is. The pistol's allowed to be strong, and so now the submachine gun can be balanced on its own. So the submachine gun damage, I believe I lowered the minimum damage it can do, so you can potentially do less damage, and you'll do less damage on average per shot with the submachine gun. But I also reduced the spread on it to make it more consistent. So it's lower damage, but you'll be landing more shots on people, so that's going to make it a bit more consistent and a little bit more usable. And in testing, it's worked out pretty well. Seems like it's had a pretty good change. Just enemy vision cone. Okay, well apparently I just don't know what the enemy vision check was anymore, so I adjusted the enemy vision cone to change their peripheral view to make it a little bit better now. Alright, E1M6 improvements, you already know that. Fixed corpse spawn bug. There was a bug with the corpse spawning. I fixed it. I don't remember what that one was, but we did it. Fixed blood drops collision. This one, when you shoot enemies, you can sometimes have blood come flying off of them. Here, I believe I showed it off in the last update, but whatever. Yeah, you can see the blood flying off of them like that. And there was actually a chance before, not a chance, it was a guarantee, but if you ran into the blood drops before, they would actually block you. So now the blood drops are just visual. They don't actually stop you or interact with you at all. They interact with the world when they land, but they don't interact with you. Nav mesh optimization. This is a huge one. So the nav mesh before, there were some areas in certain maps that I noticed the frame rate would tank. And I mean like going from 100 frames all the way down to 30 or 40. Really, really bad problem. So after a bit of testing, I found out that the biggest problem with that was the nav mesh. So through some optimizations for it, I managed to make it so that those huge tank, like frame rate tanks, did not happen anymore. Not only did they not happen, but it actually boosted performance across the board. So everything just runs a little bit better. A little bit normally, and in certain areas, it's literally like a 60 FPS increase. It's a massive, massive improvement. And that's a game-wide improvement, so those are always fantastic to find. E1M7 improvements. Yep. Achievements added, so now it's Steam achievements. I'm sure I will be adding plenty more as I go, but for now we've got, I think at least 10 achievements in. Some hidden ones too, so. Yep, got those added in, and I've already got some of them unlocked. Really, the only ones I don't have unlocked are things like beating all of my arcade high scores and kill-related ones, but I've got them unlocked. I got the other ones unlocked, got them tested, so I know that they work, obviously, but yeah. For a brief moment, I had 100%ed all the achievements for Maledictor. Removed another particle effect. Yep. They just keep showing up somehow, but I'm whittling them down. I know we say this every time, but I'm sure this time I've got them all. Next, fixed grenade bounce and explosion sounds. Yes, turns out that the grenade bounce and the explosion sounds were actually not the correct sounds the whole time. They're all placeholder sounds, and I just forgot about it. Whoops. So, got that fixed, so they're now using the sounds that are intended. Fixed a level change bug. This bug might have shaved a few years off my life. There was a problem where there were some scenarios where you could load into a new level and it would spawn you underneath the map. So that was extremely annoying to figure out, but got it. So that does not happen anymore. Yep. Very thankful for that, and very thankful I found that too. That was bad. Improved death code. Yes, so now when you die in the game, it feels a little bit more involved, and it also is a little bit more efficient and just runs better in general, so happy for that. Implemented player character's voice. This also ties into improved player voice code. So it used to be that when the player would say something, it would spawn the sound attached to the player, and that worked fine right up until you decided to do something that could start overlapping voice lines, and then you could have multiple voice lines playing for your character at the same time, which just sounds really weird. So now I've changed it so that it actually plays from an audio component in the player, and rather than overlapping, it just cancels the previous voice line and plays the new one. So, you can still spam voice lines, but it now is a little bit better. And it's also technically a lighter system. Not in any appreciable way, but, it's technically a more efficient and optimized system, so hooray for that. Implemented boss voice. Yep, the boss voice lines are in. They're sounding good. Happy about that. E1M8 is now officially finished. So all the levels are now officially done. Fixed E1M8 save load. So of course, as soon as I declared E1M8 finished, I found problems with it. A lot of problems. But, you know, I fixed them. Not anymore. Now it's done. And appropriately enough, I added credits into the game. And it's not a long credit scroll, it's just one little page. So you can see all the people responsible for helping with the game. That's really, you know, a guy who made the music, and then the alpha testers and the voice actors, the translators, a special thanks section, everyone's favorite, the licensing information, and I guess me. Yes. So it's just a small screen. Next, fixed pistol enemy accuracy. The pistol enemies had a big problem where they would actually aim a little farther away from you than they should. And what that meant was that if you were running, then they would never be able to hit you. So now, they'll hit you. if you're moving, they will hit you. They're a lot harder now. They're also... once that fix was in, I added a little more inaccuracy to them. So sometimes they'll miss. Generally they won't, but sometimes you can get lucky and they'll miss. So now pistol enemies are actually pretty dangerous. Implemented enemy voices. I am very happy for that. They came out very nice. I'm really happy with how the enemy voices turned out, and it makes the game feel so much better too. So I'm really happy with that. Improved enemy burning effect. Yes, when you used to be the enemy. Let's look in here for our textures. This would be the pistol focused. Yeah, so a little hard to see here, but used to just be like this, you know, little repeating animation of them on fire. Now, we turn on our audio, you can appreciate some of the voice acting. Now they actually glow a bit and feel a lot better. A lot more satisfying to see them running around on fire now, because they look a lot better. So I'm happy with it. Let's see. And Alpha 5 build. Yes. At the 5th and final Alpha build out. And everything after that is pretty much bug fixes from that. So fixed the bug with the E1M4 gate. Used to be that one of the gates was not done very smartly, and now it is. It would basically close, you would have to go through a shortcut that I designed, just to be nice, and there'd be a gate blocking it. So you'd have to go the long way around through an area that you already cleared out. So now I fixed it so my shortcut actually works. Next, fixed a bug with voice lines. So there's the voice line areas that you pass a trigger and then your character says something. Those would break when you loaded a save, a quick save. That does not happen anymore, so they actually stay through saves. Fixed a bug with weapon select screen, and that I can show you. Let's actually not pick up all the weapons here. You can see we've got our little bar for selecting our weapons. Used to be that when you would pick up a Molotov, it would show that you picked up an IED. And when you picked up an IED, it would show you picked up a Molotov. Does not do that anymore. So that is fixed. Next. Fixed a bug with enemy alerts. The enemies could still do their alert voice lines after they were dead. So if you went up and killed one of them before they had seen you and then walked in front of them, then they would do an alert after they were dead. So now block that off so they have to actually be alive in order to speak. Fixed a bug with the final boss first phase. So some of those fixes that I mentioned earlier with the save loading for E1M8, that also made it so that you could not beat the boss unless you saved the game and then loaded it. So, a little bit of an oversight on my part when I was testing the save load system. I made the save load system work so well that you couldn't play the game normally without it. Now that does not happen, and you can actually beat the boss without saving. Fixed a bug with final boss physics. The final boss is kind of floating, and after you would kill them, you could then hit them with a Molotov or an IED, something that like pushes the enemy back, and he would just like slowly sink down to the floor. And wasn't good. Fixed that. Doesn't happen anymore. Added safeties to various arcade games. Yeah, so there were some chances before with some of the arcade games that a ball could get stuck or not register a certain way, so I added kind of safeties in. The problem with it was that there were like physics bugs, and there were very rare physics bugs that I could never get to happen for me, but one of my testers managed to have them happen. Not regularly, but more often than me, you know, being once. So, you know, I figured I should go in and kind of stupid proof some of these arcade games so that if the physics don't work right, or you know, something weird happens with a registration thing, then it will kind of correct itself a bit. So now we've got those safeties in. Fixed a bug with Molotov power bar not appearing. It was so with the Molotovs, you hold down, illustrated in game here. Molotovs, you hold down the mouse button, it charges it up, you release it, it throws. So there was a bug where if you pulled it out and started holding the mouse button before it came out, then you could just let go of the mouse button and it would throw it. And that was, you know, obviously not great. It would also not show the power bar, so you could also be not aware that you were going to throw it. So now it doesn't allow you to throw it until it's actually fully out. So it is actually now working as intended. This is a big one. Windows and Linux builds uploaded to Steam. So it is, as I said, credits are in, levels done. There's nothing left to really add to the game, so now I am in the process of just finalizing things for early access and getting things done on the Steam end of things so that I can get the game sold. So I do have a release date now, which is July 14th. I just need to get the game tested by Steam. To do that, I need to make a trailer, so that's the only thing I have left to do before it can actually be greenlit for Steam. So for me, I can actually download the game on Steam and everything, and it will download the Windows and Linux versions, so that's nice. And then finally, fixed a bug with the Linux build not having sound. This one, it's such a it's such a weird sounding problem, but I swear it's not my fault. It was, there's basically a packaging setting that you can use to make the game load a little bit faster, and it basically encodes the configuration files a certain way, and that works just fine on Windows. On Linux, that apparently makes it so that the sound doesn't work. So, yep, that has been, I have that setting disabled for Linux now, and you can actually hear the game. Yes. All right, that is about it. As I said, I pretty much just need to get a trailer made for the game, and then get a build sent into Steam so that they can just review it to make sure there's no viruses and it's not a scam game. So if I can trick them there, then we can finally get to where we're selling the game. But yeah, so release date is set for July 14th, and really there's nothing that I'm really having to wait on, nothing really holding it back, so I'm just gonna be tweaking the game, making little improvements here and there, but we'll be ready for early access in July. So we got about a month and a half before that you can actually buy the game and play it, which is exciting. So hopefully that'll all go well. I imagine everything should go pretty smoothly with Steam with the review for that. So it doesn't take very long for that. From what I have heard, usually it's 3 to 5 days, so that should be fast. And yes, the next update next month should really just pretty much be a little launch announcement and confirmation that it is in fact coming out on the 14th. So, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next update. Have a good one, everyone.